Lance.
Come by.
Come by.
Come by. Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Listen, I've known you for how many years now? It's been a long time.
A long time. It's definitely over. My daughter is almost 19, so let's say 20 years.
20 years.
It has to be, at
and
least.
all in Japan.
Yeah.
All in Japan.
It started here.
Let me say this. I've known you and your husband, Greg, and I remember when I first met you and we started talking, and you said, I said, what do? You said, nothing. You said, you're a housewife right now, and I said, that's something. And raising your kids, you have 3 kids, and then you told me you were a lawyer. That's what you did before you had kids.
Sure.
And I said, then you're probably married to a lawyer. And you said, bingo. So 2 lawyers. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you hail from? Where are you from?
I'm from Washington, D.C., and when I say that, I actually mean I'm from the city of Washington, D.C., not Northern Virginia or Maryland.
Okay.
So I grew up in D.C., close to politics, and I went to UVA, both undergrad and law school.
Right.
But I haven't lived in D.C. since I left high school. So although it's home, I've never lived there as an adult. So I only know D.C. from the kids' perspective, D.C.
Right.
After law school, we went to New York, and after being there about 4 years, Greg was seconded to a Japanese company from his law firm in New York.
Right. But wait, so right out of high school, well, how long have you known your husband? When did you meet him? In college?
Law school.
In law school. So the first year, second, third, fourth year?
First year, first day.
And you guys have been together since then?
Well, not since that first day, but
but close to it.
But since the first year, yeah.
So most of the time throughout college, you guys were together?
Throughout law school.
Throughout law school.
So I graduated college, and I went straight from college to law school. My husband took a couple years off.
Right.
But
you went to law school, but so he's older than you, obviously.
Only a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so he took some years off, but he came in at the same time you did.
Correct. We're in the same class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Funny thing is that year, there were actually quite a few couples from that class. It's a strange thing.
You guys paired up real quick so there'd be no nonsense.
I don't know why.
No nonsense. Nobody would have any of that.
I think I was on the younger end of the class, so most of the other people in the class, a couple of people that were married. Our class was interesting. Our small section was interesting. We had the youngest student. I think she was like 19 or 18, and we had the oldest student. We had someone who had retired and wanted to start over and was studying law. So it was a really interesting group, and we just really got along. It was good times.
What did you study?
In undergrad, I have a bachelor's in science and finance, so I studied business.
Okay.
At UVA, and then I went straight to law school. My dad's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So I didn't know really what I wanted to study. I studied all different things. I think I wanted to be like an international lawyer, even though I don't know what that meant, but I think I wanted to kind of help people around the world. I was very optimistic as a student.
Right.
But then I had student loans.
Okay. But also you're the youngest of your siblings.
Correct. I am the youngest of 3.
Of 3. And your mom, she raised all of you. That's what she was doing.
So no, my mom worked. So my dad did a lot of things. Besides being a lawyer, practicing lawyer, he was also a professor. He taught law at UDC, and he was also in the reserve. He was in the military.
Right, but he was a colonel.
He's a colonel.
That's what I'm talking about. So you can say what it is. I want to know the whole deal.
That's right.
Like you're just in the service. Come on.
He's a colonel.
And at that time, it's a little bit different, because he had to really work to get.
Oh, no question.
My goodness.
It was really
What
tough.
branch was he in?
He was in the Army too.
In the Army.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was, yeah.
Did he see any action at all? Did he go? Was during his time there was nothing. He missed the Korean War.
He did miss the Korean War. There was a point that they were going to try to deploy him to Germany, but I think that's when he went to law school.
Okay. My goodness.
So it was his timing worked out that he actually didn't see any kind of military service,
right.
Active military service, but he did JAG, so he did some trial work with the military.
Yes.
So he did a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your mother? So would you say she?
So my mom, she's an educator. She was a middle school math teacher before she decided to kind of switch into the administrative side. So she worked. So when I was in high school, she was administrator at the DCC public school system.
Right.
And I really didn't know what that meant, but now I kind of.
I just have to. I have to do this. I have to do this. Hi, Barbara. I had to do it. She could say, "Hi, Mom." I had to say it.
I know. She'll be tickled pink. Thank you so much. That's real sweet.
Because I met her the second time she came.
That's right.
Because I didn't meet you, and when your father came the first time, and he's passed. He passed. By the next time you came, he had already passed.
That's correct.
That's right.
We were here from '98 to 2000. My father passed away in 2000, early 2000, and then we were in New York for a couple of years, and then we returned to Japan 2002. That time we had a little. Was it 2002? No, we actually returned 2003. Okay. My daughter was born in 2002. We returned in 2003, so we had a baby, little baby girl.
Bella.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we're really close in so many ways because I just got through speaking to your daughter on Zoom. She had some sort of project and she called and wanted to speak with me, and I'm going, what?
Who else would she speak to?
No, come on. That was interesting. And both your boys have been in the program. That's been good too.
Yes.
So tell me, so you finished school, you're with your husband, and then you started practicing.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so who'd you work with?
Both started in New York City with law firms during not a great time for the economy, but it was a good time to be a junior lawyer. There was the fact that we had jobs was great, and we were in New York, and we were doing business law. My husband was doing actually securities work, and I was doing public finance work in New York. So, in the early 90s.
Was it okay? I mean, did you have any? How'd you arrange that? I mean, like for your private lives, was it difficult? Because how'd your schedules match?
It was long schedules, but I think New York professionals, I think just being in New York as any kind of professionals, I think that's kind of the nature of being in New York is kind of always to be working. So it wasn't unusual for a lot of our peers
to be doing the same thing.
To be doing the same thing, having long hours. So what worked in our benefit was the fact that we both understood
the nature of your jobs.
The nature of the jobs.
Well, did you see each other a lot?
Not a lot. I mean, we lived together. So.
I know, but did you see each other in passing? I mean, because you probably had different hours.
No, not even not in.
So you had different sleep schedules, everything sometimes because of the workload.
Yeah, it would be sometimes all-nighters and stuff. It's hard to remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like that. But they were young, we had energy, and that's what was expected. As a matter of fact, I think even now with the young people, with the whole Silicon Valley, I still think the kids work long hours, and I think they just have better perks now.
Right. Okay. But you guys were married. You got married already.
Yeah.
You'd already got married, yeah. Because a lot of the people now, we just talked about that earlier, are choosing not necessarily to get married.
That's an option now.
It seems like much more than it was, when I was younger, and possibly when you were a little bit younger. So okay, so from then you worked at these different companies, and then all of a sudden, Greg gets sequestered to.
Yeah, so they pull him aside and say, "Are you interested in working for a client in Japan?" And he's like, "Oh, that'd be great. Excellent, yeah, great." To call my wife. He asked me. I'm like, "Yes. When do we go?"
But that meant you'd have to stop doing what you were doing.
That's right, yeah. But at that time, I had been practicing for 4 years, and I was ready for a break. I was ready for a change of pace. We had never lived in this part of the world, and it was something that we both always wanted to do. And the fact that he'd be working with a Japanese company was added intrigue. So he got seconded to one of the Mitsubishi companies here. So that was.
Now, what year was this?
What year was that?
Yeah, what year was
98.
that?
1998.
So Japan had been on the radar in the U.S. for a while by then, and everyone knew about Japan.
Oh, absolutely.
They talked, yes.
Yeah, but I think this was post them Sony selling back Rockefeller Center. They had come in, they were really strong. They bought everything.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they sold it back. They sold it. There was a bubble. I think this was.
The bubble had already burst.
Yeah, this was post-bubble. So.
Right. But you figured there still must be something there.
Well, it was something that had to be, right? Oh my God, yes, absolutely. Who didn't have a Walkman and you know, the Nintendo games? I knew about all that stuff, and I was like, oh, I can't wait, I can't wait.
So
and
how was it the first
has
time you
not
came?
disappointed.
So what was it like when you came here? What was your feeling about Japan? And especially being a minority and being female and coming to this country, how did you take it? The reason why I say it, because I have to put that preface around it.
Okay, how did I take it? So coming here, I mean, it was just full of wonder. It was just, you know, I just thought it was just amazing. I just love everything about it.
What was some of the
That's
first things?
fascinating.
Okay, give me one or two things that you just hit you that you'd always think about.
Well, for one,
everything,
okay,
okay.
you can't tell
Okay.
how tall I am, but I'm 5'6". I'm not particularly tall.
Okay, all right,
And I'm not particularly large for
all right.
in America. I'm pretty average.
That's right, that's right.
But here, I was kind of tall, and I was kind of larger than average.
Okay.
So that was different. The train system, the subways, how people, it was drop dead quiet, was kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was sparkling clean, again, amazing. I just kind of marveled at that. In terms of being someone who stood out for being a minority, not so much, because I wasn't working, so I didn't have a constant day-to-day interaction. I did study a little bit Japanese. I took some Japanese lessons. Honestly, I can't say that I haven't been treated any better. I mean, I was treated beautifully, honestly. No one followed me around when I went into the stores or anything like that. I could just look at
But
things.
you had that kind of experience in the States prior to coming, you felt?
I mean, on occasion you would feel like, you know, depending on the store, like, you know, whether or
And
not
this
you
is
were
where?
welcome.
Where in the States are you talking about?
In maybe sometimes in certain department stores in New York.
Okay.
But you know, you could name any place in,
That's true.
in the
That's- you
States.
can.
California, even I mean, you could name California. You could name the South. You could name any place. People had their
Yeah.
presumptions.
Their presumptions automatically.
Assumptions,
yes.
right?
Yes.
About
no
people.
matter how you're dressed. no
I
matter how you
do remember not liking the smoking when I came to Japan. A lot of people still smoked.
They sure did.
Matter of fact, they still had smoking on the plane when
They
they
sure
flew
did.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was kind of a hassle because that was not
You know,
great.
yeah, right. The America had already gotten used to pretty much done away with it in some of the major cities.
Right.
Right.
But then after I think Japan still had smoking on
They sure
the
did.
flights.
It took a while for them to get it. All the taxis had it. I mean, almost any place you went.
Yeah, so I didn't like
care.
that so much.
That's
That was
right.
probably the one thing, and it's kind of funny to remember because now there's smoking spots here in Japan. So
Right.
and everyone smokes in their particular spot, which is so nice and orderly. I can't
should
can't
be, yeah.
imagine people doing
Yeah.
that.
It's hard to find anyone smoking anymore.
Yeah,
Because when they decided to stop, it went like almost overnight, it felt like.
until they brought back the vaping, until
The
that came
vaping.
out.
But I still don't see a lot of people doing that.
I don't see a lot of people doing
No, I
that.
don't see a lot of people doing
Yeah.
it. You see a few people, and that doesn't have the scent that you have with smoking.
Right, no,
It's completely
that's
different.
a different
It's
issue
completely
altogether.
different, yeah. And that's they are just affecting themselves basically. So that's the one thing. But I remember going into movie theaters and hoping that the person in front of me wouldn't smoke because that trail of smoke going up. When you're trying to
Can
watch
you
a movie, you
imagine?
want it,
I can't
and then
even-
they puff every now and then there'd be a cloud of
I
smoke.
totally forgot about
and
that.
I thought,
It's
come
crazy.
on. And the seats weren't like at a slant at such an
They
angle. They were
weren't.
almost
Right,
straight, level.
right. Yeah, because
So
again,
you
the
really-
height.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was really
Yeah.
difficult. That's interesting. Okay, so tell me. So you had your first child here, and then what happened?
We were just here
For a
for,
year.
so that time, so the first time we were here 2 years. The second time we were here, it was uncertain how long we'd be here. We ended up being here for 8 years.
The second time.
Yes.
That's when I met you. The second time.
Yeah, I think I met you the first time, but towards the end. I was
Towards the
thinking
end,
about
right,
leaving.
you're
Yeah,
leaving, you're
because I
getting-
did meet you
That's
before.
right. And I remember saying, why do you have to be leaving right
I
now?
know. I think that's what happened.
Right.
It was like I don't
That's
know
right.
why I just met you just now. I
That's
just
right.
got a chance.
And then you came right back.
I came right back.
You sure
Felt
did.
that, yeah. And we were here for 8 years. So we had our boys here. We had the twins here.
That's right.
I talk about a different place. So the first time we had no kids. Second time we have little kids. and it's just, again, another marvel to behold. I must say the whole preschool system, although it's a nightmare in New York, it's also kind of very confusing here as well. Not as many choices when you're talking about English.
Expats, right.
Expats. But for Bella, our daughter, we wanted her to kind of experience as much Japanese culture as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So she actually went to a Japanese
That's
preschool.
right. I remember. That's right. She had the backpack and everything for a second.
Backpack
Yes.
and everything. Her Japanese is still pretty good, I think,
right.
because of that.
Yes.
She can hear it. She has the ear for it.
Oh, that's so good.
Although I think she might speak as well as.
So you only stayed for 8 years?
Only 8 years? Yes, only 8 years. It's a long
But how long
time.
were you? But how long were you gone after that 8 years?
After 8 years, we were gone for about 4. We were gone for 5 years. There was a 5-year gap.
Okay. And then you came back, and the kids were how old then when you came back?
We came back.
They were no longer babies, of course.
The baby Bella has now come. She was now a high schooler.
Yeah, high school.
She was a junior in high school. We came back. She was a junior in high school,
Junior
and the
high
boys were in middle school.
Okay.
So yes, the third time, yet a different time.
That's right.
Because then we have older teens that I felt so much more comfortable them hanging out and enjoying the city. That second time we were here, and we left after 8 years, we left when the boys were in kindergarten, about in kindergarten. And that was also the same year as the earthquake. We didn't leave because of the earthquake slash tsunami slash...
You called me up then. I remember you said, Lance, you leaving? I think you called me up when that happened.
I don't know.
I think you didn't.
Like
Am I leaving? I said, nope.
Well, yeah, good for you. No, I was glad. I didn't leave because of it. We didn't leave because we had actually planned on leaving anyway. But there was a huge exodus, right?
It was big.
Yeah.
People were called not gaijins, they were called fly jeans.
Yeah. It was a weird time. I mean, because even the embassy did an evacuation, which was unusual.
That's right. That's true. Well, what they did was the government, the U.S. government, basically, the military said all non-essential personnel
Correct.
can leave if they'd like, and
Right.
they would pay for it,
Right.
and they could go to any place that basically they wanted to, and they did.
They did.
Off. They took off, but most of the essential, everyone stayed. All the people that had to stayed.
Right. But
Essential
the schools were closed for a
They
bit.
sure were. They had to
So a lot of
be. That's right. No reason to be here.
yeah.
Right. My goodness. So you're back now, and you've been here for a while. And do you have any intentions? Are you going back? Oh, and Greg has made partner at White and Case, so he's here.
No, he's at Jones Day.
Jones Day. He's not
White and Case was my firm.
That was your
back,
firm. I'm
back
sorry.
in New York.
I'm sorry. He's with Jones Day. Okay. So he's partner now, though.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have plans on going back anytime soon?
No, I don't think so. So now our boys are in high school, so we'd like them to finish high school here, I think,
Okay.
because
That's how
moving
many more
around is
years?
tough. 2 more years.
2 more years. Okay.
And Bella will be starting college in the fall. She did take a gap year because of the pandemic and flight restriction and everything.
Right.
So
Does she know where she's going to go to school? Does she?
She does. She's going to go to Haverford College
Wow.
in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And she doesn't know what she's going to study, which
But
is
she's
perfect
gonna be,
because
that already.
because that's what she shouldn't know.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if she did know. So I don't think we have any plans on moving anytime soon. Next, at least for another couple of years, we'll be here.
You're liking Japan.
We are liking Japan. It's for our kids. It's practically home.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't really know
Anything outside the
better.
state.
Yeah, they have really high expectations for convenience stores and public transportation.
Based upon what's happened here, that's true.
Based on their experience in Japan.
That's so true.
That's so funny.
That's so true. So what kind of things do you work on? What do you do outside of your family?
Outside of the family.
Because you just told me a couple of things too.
I did. I'm kind of getting a little bit more involved in Democrats Abroad Japan. You know, I told you I grew up in D.C.
Right.
I was surrounded by politics, couldn't help it. The first thing I wanted to do after going away to college was kind of not be involved with politics, because growing up in D.C., that's kind of the business of D.C. So I wasn't interested in it at all. But I must say, I've just gotten to the point where I think it's just really important with voting rights and education. Those are kind of priorities for me personally, as families, as a family, we really think education opportunities for all kids, regardless of need and learning abilities,
Mm-hmm.
they should have access to it. Voting, again, to me, it's another kind of no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
People should be allowed to vote,
Right.
and it shouldn't be a difficult thing. So
Right.
those things have become big issues now. So those things that made me want to get more active.
So you're really still involved in the U.S. even though you're staying over here, because you can't really be involved here unless you really.
That's right.
Right.
So it's funny because I felt
That's
this.
right.
I felt this need. Like I followed kind of like New York politics. I followed kind of DC politics. But there's only so much you can do abroad, except there's the Democrats abroad, which basically caucuses like a state.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so they represent the concerns. And there's Democrats abroad. There's chapters all over the country, all over the world, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and they reflect the concerns of the 9+ million Americans that live
That's right.
outside of
Japan,
America.
Right.
So, but those 9 million Americans, well, almost 9 million, are permitted to vote in federal elections.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they carry some weight. And when certain laws affect different communities, I think they can be kind of galvanized.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's a huge force, and I think it was integral in certainly the Georgia runoffs, for example,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and that something like that can have a huge effect. A
Mm-hmm.
Georgia runoff has a federal effect.
Mm-hmm.
So,
My goodness.
yeah, change.
That, so you're involved with that. Anything
All
else that you're involved in?
I'm a member of Asian University for Women Committee for Japan, and basically that's a committee that helps raise money and awareness for the Asian University for Women, which is a liberal arts university in Bangladesh,
Mm-hmm.
and it caters towards women in Southeast Asia and the Middle East. And they basically kind of transform these young women's lives, and they empower them to kind of not only through education but through also internships and mentorships.
And you also love, so you're
So
that,
I'm big into education,
Yeah.
big into
You are. But also it
rights.
seems like you're really big into art too, because as we were going around this club, right now people know, but we're in the auxiliary or our other club that's in the city, Nihonbashi.
stunning,
Club.
stunning.
Yes, and you just got through having a tour, which I'm going to make sure is running while I'm talking about this right now. So we went on a tour, and as we went over some of the art pieces, you were really fascinated with them. So you're into art? You like art?
I do like art. I
there any
think
particular
that my time in New York kind of spoiled me with all the different, and in DC, I just have been spoiled being around fantastic museums. I mean, even in Japan has quite a
They do.
wealth of and appreciation
Right.
for artistry. That's another thing I love about Japan. Not only do they appreciate technology and they appreciate art, they appreciate music,
They do.
they have appreciation for science.
But it's,
So
the
it's-
thing that I find is different in Japan versus, I'll just say America. When you partake in art or music here, you can go to a concert hall, you can go to a beautiful play, you can go into a museum and be very casually dressed. They do it, but they're still neat and clean. It's just they're not dressed the way that I think I've been taught that you should dress if you're going to go to a play. Or if you're going to go to some, but sometimes it depends. Some plays you do have. It's
Oh,
no
I
choice.
imagine, yes, more traditional
That's right.
Japanese
They have that as well.
theater and
Right.
stuff like that.
But I'm
I
thinking
imagine.
about like if you go to Suntory Hall and stuff like that, where they have concerts and plays all the time, and people just go there like you go to a movie theater. They just feel like they're just going to a movie theater. Everyone's there. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
So we're in Nihonbashi. Behind you, we have the sky tree, which I think might be visible in this view. And I wonder, we stayed here later because we came here really early. We were here like 3:30 or something. Like we were here by 3:30, and we've been here until what time is it now? Almost 6 or whatever. Because it had to get
Yeah.
dark enough so we could see that.
Take advantage of the life.
And I appreciate that. Can you think of anything else that you'd like to tell me or talk about in this podcast that is of interest to you, that you want us to know?
About me in particular?
And you said, now, there's so much about you.
I don't know about there's so much about me. There's so much about Japan. Appreciate it. I just think about when you were talking about the theater. And one of the things that I also appreciate, I think everyone appreciates when they come to Japan, is the food and the dedication to that culinary arts. And it's not even just the way it tastes, it's the presentation, it's the seasonality, it's everything. It's just mind-blowing. Yes. And the appreciation for traditional cuisines, be it Italian or French or Chinese or whomever, they take it and they take it to another level.
Mm-hmm. So when you go to the States, do you find it kind of hard sometimes to adjust because you've lived here for so long? To when you go to a restaurant or whatever, are your expectations met, or do you feel because you've been here?
I keep very low expectations.
When you go there,
no. I mean,
and also you don't tip in Japan, so and the service is still,
that's right.
and you have to tip there, and that's always in the back of your head.
Right. Well, I mean, I recognize that I'm not in Japan. And it's actually kind of miraculous that I've actually been able to be in Japan this long, given my knowledge of Japanese. I always tell people I'm just like blown away about your Japanese. My Japanese is horrible, and I've been here a long time. But I can't imagine living anywhere else where you could get by and not speak the language, and the people are so kind.
And still kind to you, right?
And I try. I try, but maybe.
But they don't. But the thing is, the country or the culture doesn't expect you to.
Right.
So
no,
you have
I get
an advantage.
that.
You have an advantage. And it doesn't matter where you go in Japan, because I travel all over. They really don't. So even if you have a very limited vocabulary, they're just happy that you tried.
They keep very low expectations.
Isn't that something?
Yes, and that is kind of like a superpower, because they don't expect me to speak Japanese.
And
so
if you can say
I don't have to.
That's right.
So it is kind of nice. It's nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what else I'd like to talk about.
Well, it's all been good.
No, I appreciate. I'm just like, I appreciate you just.
Yes, I wonder, because the whole idea about this, as I said again, there are a lot of people I'm sure that see you around the club and see you around Japan, and they see you, but they don't know you.
What is she doing here?
But they don't know you, and you've been here, like you said, you've been in and out of Japan for over 20 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people come here the first time, so you're a resource. So maybe if they see you now, even through this, next time they'll come up to you and say, "Wow, tell me about this or that," and that's why I think this is so important.
I appreciate that.
It really is.
So nice.
It really is. And I'm trying to get more people like yourself that are willing to say something and tell us something. So I appreciate this time, Regina. I really do.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the podcast. And I wish you all the best.
You're a legend. You're a legend, Lance.
No. In my own mind. In my own mind. In my own mind. Listen, I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Make sure that you subscribe, leave a comment, and press like. And remember, as I always say, it's all on loan, and continue to reach for the stars.